What's up, guys? So I just mixed up this sweet lemon meringue custard like 10 minutes ago. I gotta try this out right now and see how it tastes. Ready for this? It's gonna be bomb. Dude. All right, I taste plenty of lemon, but I don't know where the custard is.
Shut up and sit down.
All right, guys, I think it's about time we talk about steeping and the importance of steeping. Should you even steep? You know, those are all questions that I'm gonna try to answer here. And we'll go into steeping in a little bit of detail, so that way at least if you're not super familiar with it, I'll get you more familiar with it. If you are familiar with it, this is just some background information. Maybe I'll have something for you that you're not aware of. All right, so to start, what is steeping? So to answer that question, it's basically taking your e-liquid or vape juice and basically putting it aside for a period of time and letting it age. I mean, it's as simple as just that. You know, it's very similar to like wine, for example. So if you take wine and you age wine, it gets better, right? And typically your expensive fine wines have been aged for a long period of time. So you can think of it, you know, in the same respect. Should you steep your fluid? Does it really make a difference? You know, it really comes down to personal preference. And to be honest, this is somewhat of a controversial subject. There are a lot of vapors out there that'll say, hey, I don't steep my fluid, I just mix it up and I vape it right away. And to be honest, that's perfectly cool. You know, and that works. And again, it really depends on your personal palate. What do you prefer? And if you haven't steeped your fluids before, I would say definitely steep it and see what it comes out as. You know, you might like it better. It might be a better taste for you. So I would say give it a shot. So is steeping worth the time and effort? Well, again, to answer that question, it's down to personal preference. You know, for me personally, I'll steep all of my fluids. I'll steep, you know, my sweet and desserty flavors. I'll steep, you know, my rich flavors. I'll steep them all. But that's just what I've come to do, and that's my own personal preference. So I'm gonna go ahead and cover a couple different steeping methods for you. And I'll start with, you know, the most common steeping method and the most trusted, and then I'll move on to a couple of others, and then I'll cover, you know, my preferred way of steeping fluid as well. So to start, the first steeping method I have dubbed all alone in a dark room. That's right. So you can kind of gather from the name, you know, you take your vape fluid and you put it alone in a dark room, and it doesn't have any friends and it's lonely, but it comes out rich and happy. Anyway, so basically the way that it works is you'll take your e-liquid, you know, after you're done mixing it, and you'll mix it up a lot until it's kind of like a milky consistency with a lot of air bubbles in it. And once you have it all mixed up real good, you'll take the top off and then you'll let it air out for roughly 10 minutes. Then you'll put the cap back on and you'll put it in a dark room. And about once a day, you'll go back in there and you'll shake that sucker up again, take the top off, let it air for a little bit, put the top back on and let it sit. Now, the amount of time that you will put it in that dark room will depend on a couple of different factors. Now, I added a chart down below to kind of get you started with how much time you should steep your fluid for. It's not a definitive chart in any way, shape, or form, but it's a good starting point. But it is a cumulative chart, so when you look at it, you'll add the numbers together based on some criteria. Those criteria are the flavor categories, not the flavorings. There's a big difference there. Is it a sweet category, a candy category, cream, fruit, nutty, things of that nature. So you'll take your categories and you'll basically add them up. and then you'll take that total sum, and that'll be the total number of days that you'll steep your fluid for. Again, the amount of time that you steep your fluid's going to really differ based on personal preference. You might go more, you might go less. But in a nutshell, it's a good, like I said, it's a good starting point. So method number 2, this is my own personal favorite and the one I typically will do. So with method number 2, it's basically the same as method number 1 with one inclusion. What I'll do is I'll basically take a hot water bath. No, I don't jump in the bath with my vape fluid, though I'm sure it's been done in the past. So you'll take like a pot or a large bin, basically large enough to fit your vape juice bottle in there, or if you've got multiple, to fit multiple, with a little extra room to spare. And you'll put some hot water in there, and you'll fill it up till it comes to about the top of your vape fluid. And you'll want to basically put hot water, not too hot so it burns your hand, or burns your skin. You basically just want it hot enough to where it feels, warm to your skin but doesn't burn you. And then what you'll end up doing is you'll take your fluid, like after you're done mixing, once again, you'll mix it up really good, get those air bubbles in there, get it nice and aerated, and then what you'll do is you'll take the top off, let it sit for 10 minutes, put the top back on, and then you'll put it inside of that nice hot water bath where it can sit there and get all nice and clean. No, not really, but anyway, it'll sit there. And what it does is it heats up the fluid and starts like a molecular process. Can't give you exact answers on that since I'm not a scientist, but it does seem to work. So you'll let it sit there until the water gets room temperature. Once the water reaches room temperature, you'll take the vape fluid out, you'll shake it up once more, you'll take the cap off one more time for about 10 minutes, you'll put the cap back on, and then you go stick that sucker in a nice dark room. And then once a day, you'll come and you'll mix it, get the top off, let it air for a little bit, and then put it back in that room. And typically the steeping times for me, I'll knock off a day or two on the steeping times. So it does save a little bit of time, and it seems to work pretty well. And again, I put a chart for method number 2 down below, so you can follow that and use that as a baseline. Now, the last method is something that I want to talk about. It's kind of expensive, but it is a way that some people do use to steep their fluid. It basically involves a vibrator. No, not that kind of vibrator. A hot water vibrator. So basically they sell these tools that they're like sonic water baths, and you'll put your fluid in this thing, and you gotta get the ones that actually get hot, right? And they basically heat up the water around your fluid, they vibrate it, you'll let it sit in there for like an hour or 2 hours, and then boom, done. Problem with this method is, from what I've heard, it doesn't work as well, and there's really nothing better than just aging your fluid. When you really think about it, it's like looking at wine, right? It's like if you sit there and you age wine and you do it correctly and you age it for like years, it turns out really good, and that's the way it's been done, time and time again. But if you sit there and take your wine and go put it in a hot water bath and then try it, it's probably not going to be the same thing. So just keep that in mind. But in conclusion, steeping your fluid really comes down to personal preference. Experiment with it. You can use my charts as a baseline and then move around from there. So, steep it, try it when you think it's good. If it's not good, let it steep a little bit longer. So a lot of times when I do my fluid, I'll do more than one bottle at a time. And then I will actually start the next one before I run out of vape juice. That's a little tip between me and you guys. Anyway, you know, experiment with it. You know, steep it for 2 days, then test it. Steep it for 5 days, test it, and so on and so on. Hopefully this has been good for you guys. Leave your comments or questions or anything that you've got on the bottom. Subscribe if you can. I definitely need some more subscribers. I can't really do much until I get 1,000 subscribers, so I need your guys' help to get me rolling here. And remember, head over to Vape Dish. Recipes are there. You guys drive that site, so head up there, you know, use that for your calculator, use that for your recipes, add new recipes to it, have fun. Talk to you guys in the next video.